So it's we're in this weird space in time in the mortgage industry and in the real estate market. So today's the 23rd. Is that the date, right?
It's 22nd.
22nd. Yeah, it's okay. So we're the 22nd of December, and 2 years ago it was like loan officer lottery.
Yeah.
And now
money was practically falling from the sky.
Falling from the sky. And now it's what I would call, we're in a Great Depression for loan officers throughout the country. In fact, I had seen some stats where it was like 150,000 loan officers were exiting, and we don't know yet, but we'll know soon how many didn't renew their license. I talked to a guy at another company a couple of days ago that was like, I can't even afford to renew my license, right? And so you have all this like chaos in the industry, and yet you, who I just met this year, has been this best kept secret in Chandler, Arizona, that you're $100 million producer. And so, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. We've chatted before, but
yep.
100 million, when you say it like that, honestly, I still feel like I did poorly this year. I mean, 100 million when I did 100 million the year before, and the year before, it just doesn't hit the same way. But like, you know, obviously I'm still here. And it was actually funny. We were talking about the same stat with real estate agents, because I was doing a training with some of my realtor partners.
Mm-hmm.
And, the movie Sing, where there's like, I'm still standing.
Yes.
And I did that thing. I'm like, all of you should feel the same way. Like, we're here.
We're here.
Raise your hand if you renewed your license.
Yes.
You're still standing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, eventually it's going to work out. So
I love that you know that song from Sing.
Yeah. Well,
because there's a real song before Sing on this.
I got 5 small kids, so,
But you're also young. You're 33, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so to have somebody on the podcast that, this is what I say, right? So like, if you were in the business in 2008 and you went through, the what happened back then with the Great Recession, and you were in lending, you have this. A lot of people have this this fear of knowing this was going to happen, and was like, I don't have it in me to go through it again. As soon as the market turned, one of my top producers was like, I'm out. Like, here it is. I'm not going through what just happened again. And he was a top producer, and he was like, I'm going to go be a pastor. I'm out, right? So I think that you have age on your side, but you're innovating and you're doing everything. So yes, the I'm still standing is so true, because for realtors and loan officers alike that are still fighting, we're real close.
Yeah.
We're real close to the tides turning. October we were in the 8s. We've gotten some relief, but if you make it through March, you have a real opportunity to make some money again. And it's
absolutely.
It's just like that piece. But how did you do it? Because it's weird that you say this, right? Like you're saying, and this is a perfect mentality, Kyle. So you have this mentality where you're saying, I did 100 million a couple years ago during COVID, so I don't feel like that's that big of a deal. But the market is not a COVID market, bro. Like, the market is a fourth of what you're able to accomplish. So, and by the way, it's like, to know you is to know what you're about, but a lot of people aren't seeing that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 12 months, remember me saying this, in 12 months, everybody who's in the market right now in Chandler, in Gilbert, in Phoenix, all across the valley in Arizona, will know your name. And this is the starting point of that.
Yeah.
But the question is, for you, is what are you doing? Like, what really did you do differently from the years prior to get the amount of business you're getting today?
So what I'm doing differently this year in comparison to last year and even the years prior is it actually started 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I always prided myself on, something that like eats at me, right? And this goes back years, is I don't like saying no.
Okay.
And I don't like being told no. And so, I got chummy with our underwriting manager, like the top credit committee manager. And there was one file I just kept coming back to him, like, well, what if I do this? What if I do this? And he goes, how many times are you going to come to me and say no? I said, until you tell me a yes, or you say, just do it this way.
Yes.
He goes, all right, let's not play this game anymore. Every time you call me, I'll just say, give me the scenario. This is what I want you to do.
But you taught him how to shift his mindset to working with you. You managed this individual to help you through that process. And by the way, I agree with that scenario. Like most loan officers, I like that he was open, by the way, because some people aren't as open. But I think loan officers have to look at it that way. Like you're going to have to manage the emotions of the other individual at times in order to get what you need. Get on their side of the table to say, I understand you have a level of risk you have to manage. How do I get around that? How do I make you feel good about that? And how do we make this happen? Because if you tell me how and they don't step up, then it's on us.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like we just want to get paid. So we want this loan to go from point A to point B. But our company, wherever you're at, underwriters, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. They have a level of risk they have to manage because if they screw up, they lose their licenses. They lose warehouse lines. Like they have huge things they have to do.
Huge risk.
One thing I said to when I was trying to really develop that relationship with them is I said, look, I understand that you have to sell this loan after, and you have to be worried about it coming back as a buyback. And I don't want any buybacks on my record. So what can I do? How many times I've had to start a whole file all the way over, just from the beginning to the end, just to make sure that when it gets to the end, the company's not at risk for something or whatever, or, I have to wait until this date to do this. That's fine. I'll wait. I'll tell everyone to wait. They're going to be mad, but like, we're going to wait and we're going to close. But so this mentality of like not being able to say no, I started noticing in 2021 towards the end that with house prices just getting so expensive for everyone that I needed to have alternative routes. Mm-hmm. So I started diving into leased land manufactureds. And there's like a bunch of loan officers like, ew, gross. And you're right. They suck really bad, and they're horrible, and they take forever to close. And I started diving into non-QM before non-QM was really even a big thing. DSCR loans. I was doing DSCR loans in 2020, but like most loan officers didn't even know what a DSCR loan was until last year. Mm-hmm. So I started, because I couldn't say no, I started diving into alternative methods. And I only did like one or two like every other month. But when the market really started to shift, what was the first thing people were asking me for? How can I get a leased land manufactured home? Mm-hmm. Well, I already knew how to do them. So I started doing them. I do 4 or 5 of them every single month this year. I've probably closed 40 to 50 of them this year. Mm-hmm. And that was one big thing I did, was becoming a yes man across all things. Yes. Not just like I don't do that. Oh, I only do 800 FICO scores. Oh, I only do this. Like you want a house? You're willing to put in the effort, I'll break my back to make it happen for you. Yes. And that's just like, that has been my mentality forever. Ask any realtor that works with me. I don't let deals die. I mean, if I can squint and turn my head and it looks like a deal, I'm going to drag that thing across the finish line. Yes. And so that was like the same mentality I put in. But in 2021, I really had to like start looking for alternative financing methods for people that couldn't afford the houses that were available, which led into this year, realtors. One thing that, you don't want your realtor partners, the biggest thing you don't want your realtor partners doing is having a backup guy that ends up doing all the deals. Mm-hmm. Because you have a backup guy that starts doing everything that I'm turning down, they're not going to send stuff to me anymore. Yeah. So I had to do everything. So that way there wasn't a need for a backup guy. Yes. So that was kind of like my 2021 to 22 like shift and how I was able to maintain, the same level of business. I actually did more units this year than I did last year. But my volume was down almost $100,000 per loan. Yeah, because you're doing these manufactured deals. But that's, to me, to judge a true growth individual, it's not about the number of dollar amount volume, because that's going to catch up to itself, right? When you look at just where average home prices are going, the true testament is, can you get deals done at the unit level? Because for every one of those deals, there's a potential 3 other deals behind it of referrals, right? So the more, just keep them coming. I don't care what the loan size is. But I think that what I'm hearing you say, and if I'm a loan officer listening to this,
And I will say this transcends even into realtors, is that you have to be a jack of all trades right now in order to gobble up market share. So what you're telling me is that, one, you figured out how to get hard deals done and you partnered with your credit risk individuals that were needed to help you on hard deals. And then number two, you ended up figuring out how to do the deals that are basically like these outskirt deals that you're going to do one or two of DSCR. You're not doing a ton of DSCRs, right? Maybe you are, I don't know, but it's good to talk about. It's a really cool product to talk about, but not a lot of people are doing them like hotcakes. But when somebody comes to you and says, "Can I do this?" your level of confidence skyrockets because you could say yes. Now, I remember being a loan officer, and at the time, everybody would always ask if you had land loans. Yeah. But that was like the way to get you to leave them alone. Like it was like their soft no. Like, hey, well, can you do land loans? And at first I was like, no, we don't do land loans. Do you have a piece of land? Like, what are you talking about? Nobody had it. That was just their way of saying, like, I don't want to do business with you. So finally I was like, yes. I told everybody yes. And guess what? No one ever asked me to do it. But because I said I had it, they got confidence in me, and it grew my confidence level. But I will tell you, man, seeing what you were doing, and I hope I can shift your mindset on this, but never lose your hunger in what you're doing. But you are doing something remarkable, because I study the numbers and I look at what LOs are doing. There are very, very few loan officers. I would say maybe 1% of loan officers in the country did more units this year versus last year, maybe less than 1%, and you're one of them. So you're a unicorn in the marketplace. Yeah. And you didn't know that. I mean, this is remarkable. But it hasn't always been this way for you. And our podcast is what I love to do is bring successful people who are doing something remarkable, and you are. But I want to hear about the struggle on the way up, because it's those vulnerable moments that somebody's living through right now. Yeah. I talk to loan officers every day. I manage in Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Hawaii. And so you have different markets, different personalities, different cultures. And on a daily basis, I'm talking to somebody about the struggle that they're going through in this market. And they're really in a tough place. And I think hearing your story, your come up story, you shared it with me, which is why I asked you to do this, because I was like, this is such a remarkable story of the coming up that I think people need to hear, not just about like the facts of what you went through, but where your mindset was. And then we got to talk about at some point this transformation that you've gone under. So, let's start with just talking about, tell me about your coming up into this business, because I don't think it was an easy journey for you.
No. And actually, I mean, I don't think anyone ever says, "Hey, I want to be a loan officer."
No one.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was actually in school. So age 12, I was sitting in my house, and my dad built houses at the time. So he was a custom home builder. And this guy kept showing up to the house every day in some cool new sports car, hot rod from the 60s. And after day 4, I'm like, dude, what does that guy do?
Yeah.
Because like, I want to be that guy. Like whatever that guy does, like I want that.
How old are you?
Yeah. So I was 12 and he was like 35, 36 or whatever. And he has all these cars. And I'm just like, just tell me how. And like, I'll make it happen. Yeah. Just give me a way and I'm going to do it. And so he ended up being an orthodontist. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to be an orthodontist. Didn't like really love the idea of like being an orthodontist, but I loved like what it could potentially do for me. So I'm like, all right, I'm in, make it happen. So I go to school, and, right out of high school, I kind of goofed off at a community college. But I'm like, it's not a big deal, because like I haven't started university. I didn't realize that like they average your university and your community college together. So when I submitted my DAT, when I took my DAT, I actually did really, really well on the DAT, which is the dental exam. And then I submitted to schooling. And when I submitted for schooling, I took my GPA at the university I was at like a 3.5 and dropped it to like a 2.9.
Weighed you down, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I was like, so I called the same loan officer, I called the same orthodontist that like I was like trying to emulate. I'm like, dude, what do I do? Like, nobody's going to let me in.
Yeah.
So he gets me on the phone with the dean of one of the schools I want to go to. And I'm talking to the dean. I'm talking to the dean of like the school I want to go to. I'm like, I was like still in awe. Like, how did he get me on the phone with this dean?
Yeah.
And the dean like just shoots me down like so hard.
So he got your foot in the door.
Oh yeah.
You're thinking this is, I got people that,
Yeah. I'm like, it don't matter. I got relationships. Like I'm gonna make this happen. And the dean's like, I need you to graduate college. I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like I already wasn't planning on graduating college. Like that was never a goal of mine. And then I need you to transfer for a master's degree. And then you can transfer in a dental school and then go to orthodontic school. I'm saying,
yeah.
like, that's like $700,000 in debt. And like you just added 4 more years of schooling to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be ancient when I get out of school.
Yes.
Like in, $750,000 in debt. Like I can't do that.
It'd have been your age right now.
I would be getting out right now. Like right now I'd be getting out to go be an orthodontist.
Yeah. In debt. You would have been more in debt of what you're making right now in annual salary.
Ridiculous. And I was like, there's no way. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there.
Actually, it's the other way. You make more now in annual salary than you would have been in debt coming out of that.
In debt coming out. Just crazy.
Yes.
And so I went to lunch with my aunt, like right after the phone call. And my aunt was a CEO at Axiom Financial in Utah. And we're sitting down and she's like, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I didn't have a plan B. Like it was plan A. Get lots of cool cars, work 3-4 days a week. Like that was the plan. And she's like, well, you work at a mortgage company. Why don't you just be a loan officer? And I was like, and go to a suit all day? Like, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
And she just like laughed and she's like, you have no idea. And I really didn't. I didn't have any idea. And so she was like, well, you know, this person, this person, this person. I was like, yeah, I know them. They make bank. And she was like, well, they're loan officers. I was like, nah, no, they're not. And she was like, yeah. So I went and interviewed with a couple of them and I joined a team. And then I, it was right in 2015 when they dropped the upfront mortgage insurance premium and the monthly mortgage insurance from 1.35 to 0.85. So I started dialing for refi leads.
Yes.
I was working on a team and there were some changes and they hopped to a different team and then they hopped to a different team. And every time they hopped to a different team, like somehow I kept getting shorted.
Yes.
And I understand that like you got shorted, but like you're contracted with me. So like you're shorting me. They're not shorting me. You're shorting me. Mm-hmm. So I ended up leaving my team and I was like, I got to either like figure this out or I got to like get out.
So wait, who were you calling at the time? Were they their leads?
Yeah.
Their past customers, whatever.
Customers.
So there was like a warm, hey, you worked with so-and-so. I'm going to help you save money.
Yeah.
Right? That's shooting fish in a barrel in a lot of ways, right? Because you're crazy not to do this offer. You just need to get them on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And it's a streamlined refi.
Yes.
Like, hey.
Shooting fish in a barrel.
I have all your information. I'm just going to re-pull it again and give you a new loan in 3 weeks.
So you do this, and then you go off on your own. And when you go off on your own, reality starts to set in, right? Because now you don't have the database anymore. You got you and the phone.
I felt like
it's a cold, dark place.
I felt like the the 2 characters on Dumb and Dumber. It was like, we got no food, we got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off. I'm like, I got no leads, I got no realtor partners, I can't pay my bills.
Yes.
Like that was how I felt.
Yes.
And I closed 2 deals in 6 months.
2 deals in 6 months.
2 deals in 6 months.
And then you're married.
It's 2015.
Are you married?
I'm married. We have 1 kid.
Yes.
Well, we had 1 kid on the way, and then during that time frame, we had 1. I got a house that I now can't afford.
Yes.
When I was shooting refis out of a barrel, I could afford the payment, and I just couldn't afford anything at that time. I mean, I did 2 deals in 6 months.
How did you? So, what's going on at this point? So for people, because I get this question a lot. The number one question I get from people that hit me up in DMs that are like old friends of mine are, hey man, how do I do what you were doing? And because what you're doing looks cool, because you're doing the content, looks easy. But they don't realize that it is hard and you get paid nothing.
Yeah.
You get paid nothing until you fund a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start today to be a loan officer 6 months maybe before you start to see good, if you hustled right.
Yeah.
Because who you talk to today is not ready to buy a home today. I mean, unless somebody falls in your lap and wants to lock a deal now, there's a long way. So you 6 months, 2 deals, and you've been doing this. You know what I mean? You have some know-how in this.
The only thing to be honest, the only thing the team actually taught me was pick up the phone and call a phone number and tell them how easy this refi is.
Yes.
When I went off on my own, I realized I don't know anything.
Oh.
Like, I didn't know how to put together a file. I didn't know how to structure
a file.
team,
right? You were just like, I got a deal.
I just
There you
called
go.
the guy that said sure, and I
Yes.
sent it to someone else, and then it got done, and I got a couple $100. At that time, I didn't know anything. Like, it took me leaving for me to really realize I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
Like, I don't know anything. And then I kept that same mentality of like, oh, I got a team, they're going to pass it off. So I'd walk, at the time I was at a mortgage company. I walked in, we were doing paper files. Mm-hmm. So I walked in and said, here's the file. It's like 3 sheets of paper in it. Yeah. It's supposed to be like this thick.
Yeah.
And I got 3 sheets of paper in there. And the processor looks at me and goes, you're going to try again, right? I'm like, was I supposed to get something else? She's like, that needs to be like 10 times thicker.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you want to like maybe give me like a checklist of like what goes in there? And she's like, yeah, the checklist is over there. I can see that I need to do some research on this and figure out.
So, you read the room well.
Yeah. I'm like, and then, I started noticing that like, I only had 2 files, so it wasn't a lot to go off of, but I kept noticing that every day I went in, my file was moved back a few people. I'm like, is this because it's not put together very well, or like, just things you notice, right? But like, I didn't know anything about guidelines. I didn't know if you could get qualified or you couldn't get qualified. Mm-hmm. I didn't know, I've been almost in the business a year, and I really didn't know the difference between conventional and FHA. Mm-hmm.
That's a thing.
I've been in a year.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
and I didn't really even know the difference.
Because you were doing streamlines. You had the easiest transaction in life.
Yeah, it was too easy, and so 2 deals, 6 months. It was rough.
Yeah,
and at the time, I was also like, trying to do valeting for cars and like anything I could do to like get my hands on some money, right? And I was trying to be part of this like MLM company, which was so stupid.
Which one was it?
Life Leadership.
Okay, I don't know that one. Okay.
Anyway, it was dumb, but I was doing a bunch of different things like that,
which is crazy because that's all prospecting too.
Right.
It's like, how much prospecting can you do in a day?
So eventually I was just like, I gotta like figure something out. And I heard this. Before I go into what I heard, one of the biggest things I learned that I would tell any loan officer coming into the business is I don't care how many relationships you have, how many friends you think will use you, they won't. And I found out the hard way. So when I first, I was on that team, I was in Utah. I moved down to Arizona because I'm from here. So I'm like, dude, I'm going to go somewhere where I have all the relationships. My dad built houses. Like, that's a slam dunk. All the realtors that know him, they're just going to hand me business, right? I have this massive family. Like, we go to family reunions like every 5 years up north, and there's like 600 people. Like, there's a ton of people. I'm like, I got connections. This is going to be easy for me. I can't tell how many doors, just nope. Like, I got cousins that are real estate agents, won't use me, right? I got uncles, real estate agents, won't use me.
They won't? They still won't? Or they didn't?
They still don't.
They still don't. Remember me saying this? Yeah. Your phone's going to ring because this is going to blow up and they're going to want to be a part of this. I'm telling you this. You have been the best kept secret, but they don't realize, they don't know your numbers, man.
Yeah.
This is crazy, but keep going.
And then I really remember this one instance, like for sure, because this was like my dad's best realtor partner when he was building houses. My dad built semi-custom homes, custom homes, and then spec homes also. And this realtor partner was his like guy that sold everything for him. So I'm like, this is my in. Like, you owe me.
You owe.
Right? Like, you don't owe me, but like, hey, like, hopefully you owe me.
Yeah.
Throw me a bone. So I walked into his office, and it's him and his wife. And he sat me down. He's like, all right, so let me tell you what you're going to do. You're going to partner up with a title rep, and she's going to introduce you to different real estate agents. And then you're going to try to convince those real estate agents to use you. I'm like,
but I'm here to use you.
But you're like, you're supposed to be that.
Yeah.
Like, this is me.
Yeah.
I don't have a title rep here. There's no title rep here, but like, this is me sitting here. Yes. Like, hey, can you use me? Yes. Like, I'm hoping that you're going to throw me this bone. And I just left and I was like, what just happened? Yeah. Like, that was supposed to be like the slam dunk of all of them. And so I went home and I was having a little bit of a pity party. And my wife goes, well, do you want to get a real job? I'm like, I have a real job. It just doesn't pay me yet. Yeah. It is a real job. It just doesn't pay yet. And pity party, right? So I call my aunt. She used to be CEO at this company. She's no longer CEO. So I call her up. I'm like, telling her all my woes. She's like, you need to go meet with this guy. Okay, I'll go meet with this guy. But like, what's meeting with this guy going to do different than just going to my branch manager and telling him I'm having issues? Mm-hmm. She's like, he's different. He's a hustler. Like, he's super aggressive and super competitive. And you need someone that's going to push you. I'm like, all right. So I go to interview with Tyson Rondo at American Pacific Mortgage. Mm-hmm. And Tyson, I don't know if you know Tyson, but dude's like 5'3". Mm-hmm. He was All-American in college, a wrestler.
Oh, wow.
Back up at the Olympics. Dude is, I meet him. He's like 36 and he's just like freaking stacked, And, he's talking about how he does like the online lead game and, how like it doesn't matter if you got realtor partners or don't got realtor partners. Like I can help make you successful. So I met with him. It was a super great meeting. We clicked a lot. I left the meeting. I went to a meeting with my manager at Academy is where I was at that time. And I sat down and I'm like, look, I've been having lots of conversations with my wife. I don't know if I'm going to make it. Meaning like in the industry, not necessarily at the mortgage company.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got one deal pending and it's like closing 30 days late. Like I don't have any money. Like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Like, I don't know what to do. And like, I need help. And like, hopefully you can help me. But if you can't, like, I'm going to have to get help somewhere else. I'm going to have to leave. Mm-hmm. Meaning the industry. I walked back to my cubicle. I had a desk, but got kicked out of there because I didn't do any units. So why do you need a desk?
By the way, that's a long road.
Yeah.
Like from desk to cubicle, it's a long road because it's a walk of shame.
Oh yeah. Well, and it wasn't like on this side of the office, like just like outside. It was like, you need to go all the way over there, past like 7 other, sections of cubicles. And, I was like, okay, whatever. And so I make it all the way over there. And I sit down in my cubicle after I just had this chat. And I open my computer and it's the email from my manager. Is like, hey, make sure you turn in your laptop before you leave. I'm like, before I leave? Like, what do you mean? Like, I got this file I got to close. Like, so I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you quit today. No, I said that, like, I need help. Like, I was, like, so confused. He goes, like, if you're going to leave, you might as well just leave. Like, and just turn your stuff now. I was not anticipating that. So this is the 22nd of December.
Really?
So exactly where we're sitting right now today, this is exactly 7 years ago today. 8 years ago today.
Man,
this is December of
2015. I like right now we should call that guy and be like, hey, do you know what Kyle's doing right now?
I know.
Kyle's crushing it. Kyle is you bet on the wrong horse, man.
But
like
it was the right thing because I went to a small little branch.
Yeah.
4 or 5 licensed loan officers. So anyway, so it's December 22nd. I get you're out of here. I'm like, what do I do now?
So you got to go home and talk to your wife?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hold on. We're going to do a play-by-play because you leave there. You accept. Yeah. At some point, it's pushed onto you that you're done.
Yeah.
You got to do the walk from your desk to your car. At what point do you call your wife or what do you do in that car? Like when you get into that, like that space where you're like, it's the reality starting to set in.
I mean, the first thing I did is I called my dad.
Okay.
And was just like, hey, what am I doing? He goes, well, didn't you interview with that guy? I'm like, yeah, but like at the time, my wife didn't want me to switch companies again.
Okay.
I'd already switched.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from Axiom to Citywide to Academy, and now I'm potentially going to switch again in 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of switching. And her biggest hesitation wasn't that she didn't think maybe the company was good or not. The biggest hesitation was every time we switched, I went another 30 days without pay because the previous company didn't want to pay me, or they shortchanged me, or whatever. And at the time, I'm like, I don't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to my dad and my aunt, and I just said, hey, like I don't got no money. I don't got no job. I don't got no leads to call.
And it's Christmas.
And he's like, just call that guy and see if you can work some out. So I ended up calling him and just saying, hey, I left the academy today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to you. So I just said that. I'm like, I am coming to you. Made the decision. He's like, well, thanks for the heads up. I don't have a laptop for you. You don't have background pass. Like, he goes, you can't start today. I'm like, okay, well, when can I start? He goes, and tomorrow's like the weekend, and then it's Christmas, and like, he goes, this is going to be like the new year. I'm like, dude, I know I don't have a lot of leads, but like, I do need a laptop just in case. So he ended up hooking me up with a guy at the branch that ended up doing stuff for me. But I, in that conversation, like, hey, I'm coming. I said, hey, I'm coming, and this is going to be my last move. But like, I kind of need some help. He's like, well, we got leads, and like, I can show you the ropes. I'm like, no, like, I can't pay my mortgage next month. So like, kind of need some dough. Mm-hmm. You think you could spot me for a couple months? And I didn't know this at the time. I found this out like significantly later. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't like expect him to just be like, oh yeah, let me hand you some money, right? Because I've done that, and like, more times than not, it always burns me. Mm-hmm. So he ended up calling my aunt, who had referred me over, and said, hey, this is what he wants. And she's like, well, I have faith that this kid will crush it. You need to pay it. He goes, well, I don't want to pay it. He goes, why don't you pay it? She goes, I'll split it with you. I didn't know this. Like a year and a half ago, I got told this. No idea. I'm glad I didn't know, though. You know, because like, I'm glad I didn't know that like secretly there was some family member that like convinced this, you know, branch manager who didn't freaking know me to like hand me over a bunch of money. Now, granted, he gave me $3,000.
Okay.
For 1 month, and then February gave me another $3,000, and then I was done. Mm-hmm. And I paid it all back, but like, that was all I got. And it was just enough to get me by. And so I called my wife. I said, hey, we're going to American Pacific Mortgage. And she's like, why? Like, how do we know this isn't going to work out? The other ones haven't worked out. Like, and I said, I don't know, but this is the first one where I feel like I've made the decision to leave and to go to this place, because the previous ones, the team made the decision. I feel good about it. And also we can pay our mortgage for the next 2 months. So we're kind of going. And so it ended up being, you know, a ton of blessings in disguise, but like, there was huge hesitation on my wife's part about switch. Not because American Pacific wasn't a good company.
Just, yeah.
You switch again, we're going another so often without pay. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I didn't get paid on that last loan I left, because they're like, oh, you owe us all this money from back and whatever. And then we could go on.
They figured out how to
but
not
they
pay
figured
you.
out how to not pay me.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, $420,000 loan. So, I mean, it wasn't no
That's
money, but like,
nice
it was,
loan.
I mean, that was 2 months worth of pay for me.
And that's 7 years ago. That's like a jumbo now.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was December of 2015. Yeah. And then, you know, I started basically, my background passed on December 26th of 2015. That's when I started. Mm-hmm. And, the first thing was first, you know, I went in with my, the branch manager that hired me on, Tyson. He sat me down. He goes, you need to spend time with Ryan before you spend time with me. I'm like, I just signed up for you, though.
Yes.
Like, I don't know this Ryan guy.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Yes.
He goes, I can't do anything with you until you know what you're talking about. He goes, I can't put you on leads. You don't know anything. Like, you got to figure out how to put a file together, make sure it's a complete file, convince an underwriter that your file is worthy of being approved. Like,
convince an underwriter that your file is worthy of being approved. That's an interesting way to say that, but that's so true.
It is.
You have to convince an underwriter why your deal is a lot, because so many people approach it like, well, will this work?
Yeah.
You know, but you flip the confidence to you, and you own your file at that point. You that one comment can transform your entire business and confidence. But that's a really good.
Well, and that was one of the biggest things that he taught me was ownership.
Yes.
Is like, that's your file. If it doesn't get approved in underwriting, it's your fault.
That's it.
He goes, it's not the processor's fault who pieced it together. It's not the assistant's fault. It's not this. It's your fault.
Yes.
If it doesn't get approved, it's your fault. You got to take ownership for it. And it is. So anyway, I spent 6 months underneath Ryan Walmsley, which dude is a stud, amazing. I love that human more than he'll ever really know, because he took the time to sit down with me, but he didn't just like baby me and coddle me, right? He was like, look, if you got a question, I need you to go to the guidelines and I need you to research it for 2 hours. If you can't find the answer in 2 hours, you come talk to me.
That's it.
You know how many times I came and talked to him? Very rarely. Very
rarely. Because you knew, and it didn't take you 2 hours.
No.
You know.
Usually 10, 20 minutes. And he also was like, we have a scenarios desk that you can ask questions. I don't want you to do that.
You got to research.
He was trying to teach me to have ownership.
Yeah.
Have reliance on myself to know if a deal can be done or not. And so like I started to learn. And next thing I know, because one thing you don't realize when you go to research guidelines, one thing that that loan officers don't know, they're like, oh, I got to go research guidelines. Do you know how many files I've gotten done because I went and researched one guideline and found 6 other nuances? I'm like, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. So like one thing that I found was, I was doing this file, is that in the VA handbook, now everyone knows this now, but back in the day, there wasn't a lot of underwriters and loan officers that knew this, but you can offset a departing residence with a lease agreement 100% of the lease up to the amount you're leaving. Most underwriters, they were like, no, it's 75%, because that's what FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac do. Right. So I found that guideline, not looking for something else, or looking for something else, not looking for that guideline.
Yes.
Found it. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the phone with someone. They're like, yeah, we just got denied from this loan because they're using 75% of the departing residence and we're only renting it out for the mortgage amount. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can do this deal.
Yes.
I'm like, I can do it. She goes, no, we just got denied. I'm like, no. Like, I know I can do this deal because I read it. And so I ended up getting that deal, and we ended up closing, and they sent me 5 referrals.
Yes.
I did them. I did them again, did a refi for them. Then I did another purchase for them. I did their daughter, their refinance, and then their son and another friend of theirs.
Amazing.
So they sent me 5 people, and then I ended up doing like 3 or 4 loans just for them because I was on the phone with them and they said something. I was like,
I remember
hold the
that.
phone.
Yes.
I read that guideline. I know I can do this deal.
That's it.
And so anyway, so that's Ryan taught me all that stuff. And then I finally, so Tyson said, I'm not going to say when you're ready. You're going to come to me and say when you're ready.
I always say that. I always tell, it's interesting as I'm coaching people, especially that are looking to be in leadership roles, or I bring them in as a sales manager and they want to be a branch manager, or they want to go from, corporate P&L to a real P&L. Or a true P&L, I should say. Yeah. And I always tell them, you'll come to me when you're ready, and you'll be like, let's go, it's time, but I can't force that on you.
Yeah.
You have to know it's time, and you'll know it because you'll be frustrated. You'll be like, it is time for, let's go. Yeah. And that's the true sense of a leader. But the flip side to that is 90% never come back. They never come back because they're like, it's too much.
Yep.
Or it's too much for me, So I think for you, how long did it take for you to say, I'm ready?
6 months.
6 months.
Yep. So I came to him at the end of June, and I said, hey, I'm ready. He goes, well, how do you know you're ready? I said, because I still don't have any money. I'm 6 months in. So this is June of 2016. I've now closed 8 deals. Still not a lot of deals, but I've closed 8 deals. So like I'm making just enough money that I can put everything I spend on credit cards, but I can pay my mortgage payment. Because my average loan amount in 2016 was only $170,000. Man, so crazy. Even at a generous comp plan, I'm still only making $2,000. $2,500. My mortgage payment is $1,900. My car payment's $325 at the time. So I come to Tyson. I'm like, hey, I'm ready. He goes, well, how do you know you're ready? I said, well, I haven't had to ask Ryan how to help me with a file in 2 months. He hasn't looked at a single file of mine in 2 months. So I know I can handle my file. I know I can tell if a deal is approvable or not approvable. I know where to get the answer. If I can't figure out the answer, or if I don't know the answer, I know where to get the answer. And I think I can convince an underwriter to take my deal. He goes, all right, so what do you want? Dude, I need money. I need leads, like now. He goes, all right, I'll throw you on some Zillow leads, some Zillow lender leads. I'm like, all right, are they good? He goes, they're the best. He goes, if you don't have a 10% conversion ratio, you're going to get off. I'm going to kick you off. Like 10%, like I hear industry average is like 2. He's like, industry average is 1.
Yeah, I would say it's like 80, 0.8, or something. Yeah, it's low.
He's like, industry average is 1.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing 10%, you're off. I'm like, no pressure, right?
I love the way the mindset of these guys they created a barrier that you were like, I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
They put you in an I don't have a choice situation that it was sink or swim for you.
Yeah.
But if they would have said 1%, you would have been 1%.
It's true, right? If you set a goal, a lot of people will just hit the goal and be fine with the goal.
Yeah. And,
they always set some outrageous, barrier for me. Like you said, a barrier. And I was like, I didn't know. I was like, industry is like 1%. You're saying 10. They must be that good. So I was like, the leads are that good.
Right?
It wasn't like I'm good.
Yeah, that's it.
The leads are that good. And so I'm sitting there and, there's another story on that one, but he turns me on July 3rd, 2016. My first lead comes in the morning of July 4th. Right?
Of course.
Holiday, of course.
Worst time they come in, yeah.
The best time to answer your phone is when you really don't want to answer your phone.
That's it.
That's the best time. So I'm sitting there, and he told me this right before. He goes, you're going to get stuff in an awkward time.
It's every time they're not working and you're not working, or you're in the middle of something. Yep. That's when people call you. That's when they want to talk about mortgage. Yep. Lunchtime.
Yep.
Dinner time, weekends, holidays. Yeah, that's when people are thinking about their mortgage.
So I get this call. It's a 928 number.
Yep.
And guy's living in Flagstaff. And I totally butchered his name.
Okay.
So am I allowed to say their names?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. His name's Alan Medvin.
Yeah.
And super cool dude. He runs a lock and key shop in Flagstaff. Anyway, so I click. I'm so excited. It's my first lead. I click. I'm like, hey, is Medvin there? He's like, yeah, this is Alan. Oh, hey, Alan, this is Kyle Wright. I'm a 5-star lender with Zillow. I'm responding to your inquiry. He's like, it's July 4th. What are you doing working? I said, dude, I need some money.
The honesty, though. Yeah. The honesty. Yeah. You had nothing to lose. And so, you have nothing to lose at this point.
I'm like, well, one, like supposedly these leads are supposed to be really good. That I'm supposed to have a 10% conversion ratio. And I'm coming at this like, this is my first lead. He's like, hey, it's the holiday. I'm like, dude, I need money. So I ended up chatting to him. We got under contract a week later. So that was my first lead. And I'm like, okay, maybe the leads really are this good. I ended up finishing out that year with an 18% conversion rate.
18%.
18%. And the funniest part is my company held this party a year later. And we're sitting there and I'm talking with one of the reps. And I've never talked to the reps because these are Tyson's leads I'm calling like secondhand, right? Yeah. I'm not even getting first crack at this point. I'm getting second crack. And I was having that good of a success rate. And I was having like a 60% contact rate.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there with the with one of the guys that like is like the lead collaborators, like the guy that like your account rep, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sitting
with
the
Zillow?
From Zillow.
From Zillow, yeah.
With Zillow, I'm sitting there and he goes, hey, you're Kyle. And I'm like, yeah.
They know you.
He goes, dude, you're killing it. you're 4 times the average conversion ratio. I'm like, no, I should be like 1.8 because it's 10. He goes, dude, on Zillow, it's like 4.2 or 4.5. I'm like, I like just turn to Tyson. And he's just like grinning from ear to ear, you know? And I'm like,
oh, that's the best.
And I'm like, yeah. And I got like a 60% contact rate. He goes, dude, the industry average is like 30% contact rate. Like, he goes, you're killing it. He goes, you want to like do like a little training? I'm like, a training? Like, sure, I guess so. Yeah. But anyway, you know, it's all a mindset thing, right? And they, you know, the one thing that was really great about Tyson and Ryan is they set these mindsets for me that made me think that what I was doing was different than how the industry perceived it.
It's like you were like a I don't think that they meant to do this. And maybe I hope that they did. Yeah. Right. The story would be so much better if they're sitting around it, but it's almost as if it was a test. Like, let's just see what this dude does with that, right? Because you could have come back at 5 and they would have been like, yeah, cool. They kept you on the leads, 5%, you know? Yeah. But you crushed it because they shifted your mindset in the way they explained to you. And that to me is everything. I think that's, you know, but I also think, Kyle, like, I don't think you would have failed given what you were in any situation, whether you had those leads or not. Your path, everything you're saying is about how you approached it, given the situation you were given, and you always, you know, modified where you needed to modify. So it is amazing how you've come up. Keep going with your story. I want to keep hearing it.
So that's July.
Yep.
So July was a big month also because I said I'm ready for leads. And at this point, I had 2 realtor partners. Max was one realtor partner, and you know I had been calling this dude so many times, and finally I got him on the phone again, and he's like, Kyle, I'm just busy, man, and like I don't know if I can switch lenders right now because I'm busy. I'm like, okay, like I get it, like we're all busy, like I get it, and I'm like, so tell me what's so busy. What you got going on that's so busy that you can't make 10 minutes for me? And he's like, well, I'm going through a divorce right now. I'm like, oh, shoot. Okay, I get it. I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And, you know, he tells me his whole life. And I'm like, fudge, man. Like, I'm really sorry about that. But, like, you said you go to the gym tomorrow, right? He goes, yeah. I said, what gym are you going to be at? He's like, I'm going to be at this gym over on this corner. I said, what time are you going to be there? He goes, I see where this is going. I'm like, you do like a warm up on like the treadmill in the mornings? He's like, I do. I said, cool. I'll be there at 7:30 on the treadmill next to you.
Did you do it? Did you go?
Oh yeah, I was there.
That's it. So okay, so we got to talk about this because that's the clip.
That was my first realtor partner.
That's the clip. That's the clip that people need to hear. Is you couldn't get a guy to give you the time, and you said, but you did say you're working out, and in that workout, there's probably a warm up. I'll be in that warm up with you. And then you showed up, and that is your first realtor you ever got?
Yep.
That's it, man. That's it. That's how you do it. That's prospecting.
Yep.
That is hardcore. I'm not going to fail prospecting.
Yeah. Well, and then you do the same thing with, you know, prospecting for clients, right?
Yeah.
You know, I transform that into when I do clients, and clients are like, oh, I'm not busy, or, you know, I'm busy, you know, this. So let's chat next Friday. You're not going to get that client on the phone next Friday. Like, come on, there's no way. And so like, I always try to be like, okay, well, what you got going on this week? Oh, I got this, and get off work at 6. And then, you know, I got to do dinner with the kids, and, you know, I got to do this. And then I, you know, help put my kids to bed. I'm like, dude, I do the same thing. I got, you know, right now I got 5 kids.
Yeah.
I hate being on the phone between 6:30 and 8:30 because they're like, oh, my kids don't go down until 8:30. I'm like, so 8:31, it sounds like you're available for like a quick 5-minute call.
Yeah.
And then they'll laugh, and they're, you know, and some people are like, yeah, I'm available. And I'm like, cool, I'll call you tonight, 8:31.
Yes.
And I'm like, and if I'm late at 8:32, you don't have to work with me. And they're like, for real? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna call you 8:31. And so I set those up. I don't always make the joke about, you know, if I'm late, you don't have to work with me, because I also have 5 kids. So sometimes like bedtime runs late and stuff. But you got to try to find a way to insert your way into what they've got going on.
Yeah.
My job is to get them the mortgage. Their job is to work to pay for the mortgage I want them to get.
Yeah.
With
but
me.
You truly enjoy this. I mean, you're probably like most of us in the sense of we all prospect, right? You're prospecting every day, but it's like going to the gym. I hate going to the gym, but I never leave the gym saying, "Oh, I hated that I just did that." I'm like I'm glad that I did it. It's the same with prospecting. I hate the ramp up to prospecting.
Oh gosh.
But then once I'm in, even if the first call tells me to pound sand, I'm like, oh, I will win on the next one.
I'm gonna win.
And then it starts to get like, then you start cooking. Then you're like, oh, 8:31. That's when the funny shit comes out. You're like, 8:31, I got you, bro. Yeah. I will call you at 8:31. And that's where I think people miss that you have to have an enjoyment of the pursuit. Mm-hmm. You know, Rene Rodriguez. Do you know Rene Rodriguez?
No.
He's a speaker, and you will know him because you want to be on the speaker circuit, and you will be. But Rene Rodriguez talks about how the journey to getting the beach house is amazing. But once you have the beach house, you're like, nah, like who can I let stay here? You know, because I don't really want to stay here. Like I just wanted to be able to get to say I had a beach house, but I'm good now. Like, what's the next thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's the pursuit to get to where you are that I think people miss. And by the way, I'll be as bold to say, if you're sick of it and you hate it, at the end of it, then do something else. Because this game is about prospecting. If you cannot prospect, you will lose.
You got to prospect with clients and agents.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, like, there's lots of people that want to. Yeah. There's lots of people that are hungry for it. But it is like you said, I kind of make a game out of it.
Yes.
And, I do, you know, a lot of people talk about scripting, and, scripting is something that everyone should do, but you script so that way when you're on the phone, it sounds natural. It doesn't sound like a script. You have to practice well enough. And I have a few things that everyone knows. My realtor partners could basically walk you through a phone call with a client. They know what I'm going to say at the beginning, they know what I'm going to say at the end, and they know how exactly I take an application, and they know what I say at the end.
Yes.
And they know that Kyle's going to be the same way on the phone. And which is great that they know this, because I prospect with them. I sit in the offices with them, and I take phone calls with them.
Yes.
But that way, when a client says, oh, well, this, I know what Kyle says on the phone.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I know how it goes.
How to
you know,
overcome.
and there's some things I say the same every single time. Like, people call me like, hey, how's it going? Ever since COVID, I'm surviving a Tuesday. I'm still here. You know, clients will say like, you know, like I'm busy. I'm like, oh yeah, we're all busy. What do you got going in your life that's so busy? Like, I got 5 kids. Like, that's crazy. I know.
Oh, you got 5 kids? That's crazy. Like that. Yeah. That's the response. You got 5 kids?
That's crazy.
Now I'm talking.
Yeah. I know.
Forgot I was busy.
People are like, you have 5 kids?
Immediately.
Yeah. Dude, I use it all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I got 5 kids. They're like, you have 5 kids?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. How old are you? I'm like, I'm 33. Are you nuts?
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, man, I just like my kids.
Yeah. So good.
So, I mean, you use things like that. Like, you have to, like, and sometimes, like, so I one of my other buddies, he's a big scripter. Like, he helps people with scripts. And he's like, dude, you got to throw something in there. Something to catch them off guard so they can get out of there like, this guy's calling me and I'm busy and nope, I don't want to talk to you. You got to throw something in there that, like, and so I throw in, I got 5 kids.
Yeah.
You know, like, it just depends on what's going on.
It's about being personal. It's about offering a little bit of vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's all that stuff. You know, that I think is what helps her resonate with the person on the other end is you got to figure out how to break through the white noise of everybody else that's calling them and trying to prospect.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy who I watch and he does this really good, take where he purposely struggles to find his words. So it's something like, hey, Kyle, you know, I was calling you and it's a weird call, but, you know, I normally don't call people and just, you know, cold call, but, you know, I was looking at your numbers. You're doing something remarkably well. And, you know, I'm just curious how you're doing it. And all of a sudden you might respond differently because he's not just like, hey, Kyle, how's it going? Like, and really salesy. He's really struggling to come up with why he called, but that's part of the strategy no matter what.
Yeah.
And then, but for you, what you figured out was you've taken this amazing thing by having 5 kids and then using it to get people to talk to you. And I think that that's what people like. It's you have to appreciate the game of human nature to do what we do from a prospecting perspective. How important to you is prospecting in the world of what we do in sales?
Well, I would say that prospecting is number one most important thing. Everyone should be prospecting. Number 1A, 1B, right, is going to be the personality that you put into that prospecting.
Without a doubt.
Because you can prospect and come out with 0 results. And people do this all the time, right? I mean, think about it. In our industry, the numbers aren't quite the same. I'll use real estate agents as an example. But 90% of real estate agents fail in their first year, right? 90% fail. Almost every real estate agent hops on a team first, right? And what do they make them do? Dial over and over and over. They teach them how to prospect. What's lacking? That edge to prospecting. You can find someone that can dial 1,000 people in a day. Yeah,
I'll tell you this, this is an interesting take, but anybody who's prospect, I actually, I don't know if I agree 100%. I think you're right, but here's the thing. If I'm going to get on the phone and prospect, there has to be conversion.
Yep.
If I suck at it, and I suck over time and over time and over time, then I'm an idiot if I am not finding the best person in the room and sitting with them and learning. Because why would I keep doing it? And not having success. So I think to your point, like there is a skill set that you have to learn. The hardest thing is just getting to the gym. Like you just got to get there. Once you're there, somebody's going to help you out. Or you're going to figure this out. But I think to your point, I hope that there's not somebody listening to this that's not willing to learn their conversion, because, I know exactly how many calls I could do in an hour, and I know how many appointments I will get in that hour if I'm dialing cold. Like I just know I'm tried and true. If I want 4 appointments next week, I'll get on the phone for an hour this week. Right. Like that's it. It is tried and true. And so, I think what I'm hearing you say is prospecting is the number one thing, to being successful. We're running out of time, but I want to hit on something because this is an interesting story. But when we were, I met you on your social media. We were following each other, and you had these 2 pictures of you.
Yeah.
And one is like, and for those of you that are listening to this, I want you to go find me on YouTube and find the Kyle Wright podcast. But this one is interesting because Kyle is like, you're like this fit, good looking dude. And there was one picture where you looked like you were just pudged out, like your face. And I was like
300 pounds.
And I can't see your body, right? I saw your face. And then we all get that little judgmental piece in our head, but I was like, which dude am I getting when he shows up? And you showed up, and I was like, bro, you look completely different. And you were like, yeah, man, I had a transformation. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think I think there's some stigma that, I think when I hear you talk about it from the level that you talk about your journey from 300 pounds to what you are today, the level of confidence you have in it, and the level you're really going to help somebody who maybe have a stigma in their head differently about it. Because, I think you should be a poster child for this. I know you don't want to be, because, nobody wants that. But I think it's just good to hear somebody, understand who they are as an individual and what they want to be and make it happen. And you've done that your entire life. So share a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So my whole life, I was always a little bit larger, even into my adulthood. I had lost, so I got up to 300 pounds, might have potentially got over 300 pounds, but I didn't hop on the scale after a certain vacation and purposely dieted for a couple weeks just to make sure that I wasn't over 300.
Because that was in your head.
Oh yeah.
You were like, that's like next level. I don't want to get there.
I mean, you can tell, like, you can tell like when you've gained weight. Like you can like, oh man, I feel like I've gained some weight. Like it just feels different. And I was already sitting at the like 297 mark. And like I come home from this vacation. I'm like, dude, there's no way. I got to diet. So I dieted for like 2 weeks, hopped on the scale and it said 299. I'm like, oh smokes. But I had dieted and exercised my whole entire life. And I had yo-yo dieted over and over and over. I had lost 100 pounds through diet and exercise 4 different times in my life, and I just could not keep it off. And I was active. Like I bow hunt, I hike with my buddies. I went to the gym. Like, I mean, I could throw some serious weight around, and I was in the gym, and you ask all my friends, I could keep up with all of them, but I was 300 pounds. And I finally just got to the point where I was just done with it. And, I was considering going on a diet again. And, a bunch of people around me had a surgery called gastric sleeve surgery. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, surgery's not for me. Like I've proven I can diet and exercise and get down. I'll just do it this time. And for real, I'll stay down this time. And I didn't. I spent a whole nother year dieting and exercising. And me and my top real estate partner, we actually, we made an agreement we were going to go together. I chickened out.
He went?
He went. I didn't.
Yeah.
And I watched him lose so much weight over like 4 months and watched him just get so skinny. And I'm just like, dang it, what was I thinking? Why would I do that? I was going to go. And I chickened out.
What was holding you back at the time? Like when you say you chickened out, is it the surgery piece? Is it that your wife's like, I don't know, the surgery's the answer? Like what were you thinking?
All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like surgery, I mean, there's risk. I could die.
Yeah.
Like I got 4 kids. At the times I had 4 kids at home. Like my life insurance policy wasn't that great, So like, I'm like struggling with like mentally, like I'm going to go put myself in a position where I could die. Like, yeah, the percentage of death is very, very small, but still like, and I just got to the point where I said, you know what? Like I can't emotionally, like I'm still a happy guy. Like, it's fine. But I'm like, eventually this is going to catch up to me to where I can keep up now, but like how much longer can my body take keeping up with everyone before it starts breaking down and I lose 20 years off my life or, I can't keep up with my kids or, whatever. Like there was a point where like, I didn't even want to go outside and play with my kids. Cause I'm like, dude, I'm tired.
You're tired.
I'm tired.
You're just worn
like,
down.
I'll do it and I'll keep up. Cause like mentally I'm not going to slow anyone down. And there was a night I just broke down with my wife and I was just like, I can't mentally handle being heavy anymore. Cause like, I feel like how I am is not represented with my physical appearance. Who I am. And this is not who I am. Like my outward appearance does not reflect inner Kyle. Yeah. So I scheduled my surgery for April of 21. Went and had my surgery. I had every side effect. I had neck issues. I had, gallstones. I had just everything that you could potentially have. I had every side effect, everything. But I mean, it's been 2.5 years now, come up on our 3rd year. I'm down I lost 140 pounds total. And through exercise and doing some things I've
140 pounds?
140 pounds.
140 pounds. I'm 150 right now. So yeah, you lost.
I walked around with you on me.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. Yeah. That is just insane.
You were just on my body.
But you're like, even when you came in the other day, you had a short sleeve. You were like stacked, dude. You're ripped. Like this dude's ripped, right? I mean, it's crazy.
So yeah, I still work out.
Yeah.
I just feel that my outward appearance more reflects who Kyle is.
How do you feel? Like, how do you feel now? I mean, Kyle, I know that you've always had a level, like, I don't know if it's your upbringing or what it is, but even as you tell story of pain, you say it with a smile on your face. So I think you've always approached life with some level of hope and some level of like appreciation and gratitude. But how do you feel now? Like, do you feel, like, do you feel like a new man?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you walk in a room more confident?
Yeah.
You were just at an event. You posted a clip about it and you were like on stage, not on stage, but like kind of on stage. And I was like, dude, you were beaming up. Like, you were just like, I even sent you a mail. Like, do you look great here? Like, you just looked like you owned the room and you felt like you were you. I don't know if that was the same person that you were before, but do you feel, is that a lot of where you just feel like everything's caught up to where the way you felt inside on your outward appearance?
So one of the biggest things I feel is different is not necessarily me. And it's like kind of sad to say, and it like really still affects me. Cause like, I mean, my whole life I was overweight. And I don't think people realize like that sometimes when you're overweight, you get looked down on. Like, oh, you can't control your appetite, or you got bad habits, or you got this, or like, you're not worth my time because you don't have discipline. I was disciplined. Went to the gym 4 days a week. You know, I made my calls every day that I was supposed to do, but I struggled with my weight. It's partly genetics, partly eating habits. But at the end of the day, like, people look at you different. They do. And since losing weight, people look at me different.
Not a lot of people get that opportunity in life to notice that. You've seen the experiments where people put a bodysuit on and watch how people treat them. Like supermodels will go and put a bodysuit on and realize the world treats them differently. Like, you did it the opposite, and you're seeing it firsthand that the world's treated you differently. It's sad.
Yeah. That was the biggest change I saw was that I saw other people treat me different. I mean, even people I know. Yeah. You know, even people I know treat me different. Yeah. But a lot of like, you know, I would go to an event, I wouldn't get a lot of like attraction. And now I go to an event, I get lots of attraction. You get a lot of attraction. I got shoes on, I got a fancy shirt. Yeah. You know, but when you're large and in charge in the room, like, you know, it's not the same. Interesting. So I noticed a lot. Confidence level, you know, if I had to give it on a scale 1 to 10 before, I was probably like an 8.5. Yeah. Like, I got a little bit of a confidence thing, but like now I'd say it's a 10.
Good for you, man. Good for you. And by the way, those two points are big, man. I mean, like, you know, you have everything right now going your way in the hardest of markets. And, you know, you are also in a good health place as well. And you have an amazing family. You know, it's right before the holidays. So man, you have a remarkable story, Kyle. And, you know, I was thinking about this. I'll do a pre-lead up, on this one to introduce you, but I'm here today with Kyle Wright, who's, one of the top 1% loan officers in the country. At a time when everyone in the industry is in a suffrage. You know, I have talked to the top of the top, and they will say, bro, it is hard out there. And you talk to Kyle, and he's doing more this year than he did last year. And there's less than 1% of loan officers that can say that. So I want to thank you. How do people find you, man? If they want to find you on Instagram and you know, want to follow you, where do they find you?
MrLoans.mortgage.
MrLoans.mortgage. Look him up. Follow him on Instagram. He's putting out amazing content. You're doing the 12 days of Christmas on Miracles. The hardest loans. Yeah. The miracles, yes. The 12 hardest loans. And for loan officers, follow him, because this dude has put some of the hardest deals together. And dude, it's been an amazing journey getting to know you and hearing your story. I really appreciate the fact that you shared it with the audience today. Yeah. And so thanks for being here.
Yeah. And, you know, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. MrLoans.mortgage. It's actually kind of a funny play on words, but I wanted to be the loan doctor because I thought that was cooler. And my wife's like, that's kind of lame. And then we did some research, and like, apparently
there's a lot of loan
doctors out there, and like for doctors for loans, right?
Oh, yes.
And so my wife's like, we were just teasing one day, and she's like, why don't you just be like Mr. Loans? I'm like, yeah. I was like, do you think they have that license plate? I went online, they had it, and I was like, I'm sold.
That's
how Mr. Loans is. The license plate was available.
Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Loans was available, and Mr. Loans was born. But, you know, for the audience, like if anyone ever wants to reach out, I do help other loan officers. Doesn't matter if you're in my sphere or not. If you got a situation, whatever, you want to like bounce some ideas, you know, DM me, call me on my cell phone, whatever it is. I've helped put together other deals that aren't my deals. So
yeah, look, here's the thing, guys. And I'll say this because this has helped me tremendously in my business. when you call top performers, you will be surprised how they are willing to help you at the drop of a hat, because top performers love to help other people who want to be top performers. So get to know people like Kyle and connect with them. And so thank you, man, for offering that. I appreciate that. Thank you for doing this today.
Yeah. Thanks
and
for
Merry
having
Christmas, my friend.
me. Merry Christmas to you guys.
Thank you.